This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Keller's Garden Center and Landscaping Services. Are you still cutting your own grass? Are you still trying to get your landscaping to look perfect on your own? That sounds sweaty. That sounds like a lot of work. That sounds like a job for Keller's Garden Center and Landscaping Services. Family owned and operated. Keller's Garden Center and Landscaping Services, located on Kern Street in Exeter near Blue Ribbon Dairy, has the quality and experience to get your yard looking its best. The Garden Center offers plants, trees, sod, mulch, rocks, flowers, topsoil, grass seed, straw bales, and much more, while the Lawn and Landscaping Services offers mowing, trimming, planting, and full landscaping. And also new at Keller's Garden Center is the Zen Chaser Bonsai Studio, offering bonsai trees, supplies, and classes. Visit them on their social media page for more info. Keller's Garden Center and Landscaping Services. Get your free estimate today. Tyler, my man, what's up?
Nothing, man. How are you?
Nothing.
Nothing's ever up. Nothing's ever up.
No?
No.
Must be down then, right?
I'm always down. I live down. I'm down. I'm a tough hang.
I'm becoming to be a tough hang.
Yeah.
We just got a puppy yesterday.
Oh man, so brand new 2024 dog.
Yeah, 9-week-old puppy.
Wow. Your life's about to change. Do you have kids?
I have kids. And the reason that's why we got one, right? I mean, I have children. It's more for them than it is for me. I remember I had a puppy growing up. It was really cool. But just 2 weeks ago, my wife and I are in the car, and we're talking about how we're not dog people. We're just not. We're not dog people. They smell. They always have the smell on them. Like you walk into a house. I mean, people's houses smell, just like by accident. It just they have a smell.
Well, they don't have the same hygiene standards that we do.
Right.
Human beings,
I mean, I always had cats. I've always had cats, but like their litter boxes in the basement, like in a closet, it's tucked away.
Mm-hmm.
And cats are pretty clean. They spend a lot of their days cleaning themselves. So yeah, I am 24 hours, a little over 24 hours into being a puppy owner, and my wife and I almost got divorced a few times today.
That's when you know it's going the right way. If it's too easy right up front, that means that you get comfortable, and the dark days are coming. Because the dogs, man, I grew up with cats too. My cats though, when I was a kid, they were like kind of outdoor cats, and we don't live in like the country. Like I didn't grow up in the country. So we had to get them electric fences. So they were like kind of like dogs. And so I've only ever lived with one dog, and it's wildly different than cats. I mean, they just like they're on your face. They're just like in your shit. Like
they're in your dick. That's what my biggest thing. I remember I'd go to friends' houses who had dogs, and like they greet you, and immediately their nose in your dick. I'm like,
in your dick. Their paws are like my girlfriend. She has a dog, and I love the dog, Bowie, golden doodle. She's the best dog, but her paws kind of just always find my dick. Like no matter what, like she has a magnet for my dick, and it hurts.
They love it.
Yeah.
But my goal is to change the course of nature to raise a dog that's not in your dick.
Yeah.
So I want people to come over to my house and be like, oh, that dog was really nice. It was not in my dick.
I don't know if I'd like that dog though. I kind of like, as much as I complain about, I wouldn't want to like passive, like uninterested dog. That's kind of the one thing about Bowie that is the best, is that she's just so happy to see, like, you could like, if you have a bad day, the fact that somebody loves you that much and just can't wait to see you, it does make you feel the approval of a dog means more to me than I wish it did. You know,
Okay.
I wish it wasn't as important to me as it is.
See, I have kids for that. So like that's I feel like we're going backwards. And now like owning a dog has become, people have really leaned into, dog ownership literally being their children. That's
Yeah.
fine. Whatever. That's fine. I'm not gonna try and fight that fight. If that's your child, that's your child, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, but so like this, it's there's the training involved is a lot heavier these days, I think, and I got people sending me videos, and I feel like this is more difficult and more involved than a child.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I don't know. I don't have any kids, but uh, the major difference is like, like you're trying to raise the kid to be like you at least were a kid once. You were. It's still a human being. This is just an animal. This
Yeah.
is just a thing we decided. Like we just decided to let animals live with us. Like that was a decision. One time somebody was like, "I want." I'm happy we did, but and it's an odd thing that we've domesticated wolves.
Yes.
You know,
Yes, it is. But we're stupid as
we're
people.
dumb. We're
Yeah.
gonna. I think we've only gotten dumber.
Yeah. They tell you not to do something, you're gonna do it. It's just what we
Yeah.
do. But my kid yesterday, he never asked for a dog. He never, nothing like that. We surprised him, and he looked at me yesterday and said, "Daddy, I love her so much."
Oh, that's
And
good.
he said, "I don't know if I love her or Mooch, our cat, more." And I'm like, "Well, it's okay to love both the same."
Yeah, it's
So,
going to be an interesting life lesson too. Like, uh, the hierarchy of love. There's always a hierarchy of love.
right.
Like, do you have one kid?
I have two.
Dude,
Well, my son's 6. My daughter is like 21 months, almost 2. She'll be 2 in July. So she's like, this is just like
she's
amazing.
barely a person.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah. She,
yeah,
yeah, she,
yeah.
she, you can tell she likes the dog too, though.
Good. Good.
But
Do you have a favorite kid?
no, I mean, I love them both equally, but differently, right?
Yeah,
You know, once, I
yeah.
mean, we won't get into that. This podcast has gotten off to a riveting start with my woe is me. I'm a puppy owner. But
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
I hope so.
Just
I
wait till
hope
that
so.
dog shits on the carpet.
Already
Just wait.
happened. It's already happened.
Oh, all the fears are faced. You're good.
Yeah.
All the
But
bad stuff's out.
so we're not here to talk about puppies and dogs. We're here to talk about Tyler the comedian, Tyler Rothrock. Is that your actual last name?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Which is wild to me because I had the pleasure of seeing you. You were part of a show at Wisecrackers inside Mohegan Sun. I don't know if it's Pennsylvania now or Pocono. May
Yeah.
have been Pocono, now it's Mohegan, Pennsylvania, whatever it might be. In the beautiful area of Plains, Pennsylvania.
What's it
Um,
called? Plains?
Plains, that's yeah, it's technically Plains is the
Okay.
city in which it resides.
Okay.
Um, so Wisecrackers inside Mohegan Sun Casino, and Paul Spratt opening or having a show was like the end of March, in March 23rd or 22nd, one of the two. He had
Hmm.
2 shows, and I saw you open up for him. Now, Paul Spratt, I was like the same question: is that your real last name? He said yes. I mean, that sounds like a comedian's name, and
It wasn't our choice.
and now
We're
we
just
have
born into this.
now we have Tyler Rothrock, which that just sounds like
Mhm.
a comedian's name. But dude, you were hilarious. I was
Oh,
like,
thank you.
that whole night. Like, I think people, and I'm guilty of this too, to a degree. We just forget like what's going on around our area sometimes, and wisecrackers. I told Paul this. Like, I just don't know if it's just not if I'm not being advertised to in the algorithms or all of the advertising or what it is, but I don't hear much about wisecrackers, and I'm a huge comedy fan.
Mhm.
And so when I talked to Paul, I was able to like go see a show, and it was a great night. We had some dinner prior to the show. The room was cool, and yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, it's funny. I have this conversation a lot because I have this conversation a lot with Paul. We 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 knew each other. We both started in Pennsylvania like a long time ago. I like started 12 or 13 years ago. I think Paul's a little longer, but we met in Pennsylvania. But we both moved to New York at the same time, in a different time too, which is weird to say. Like times like, and we talk a lot about how to get people to come see us. And I'm guilty of the same thing, but I think the algorithm, the being marketed, we're so used to being marketed to that we don't seek out things because we just like, no, the algorithm, as evil as it is, its job is to let me know what's happening.
Right.
So I will feed it all the information I need to, and my reward for doing that is to just know what I should be doing. And I think we kind of miss stuff because we don't seek out what's going on necessarily. Like a Wisecracker. Like Wisecrackers has a great like lineup of shows every weekend.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to get people to come out. So it's funny that you say that.
Well, I think it's just really fragmented, and I have this conversation a lot. I talk to a lot of people in entertainment, bands, musicians, stuff like that. I think the problem is there's no, like, for me, right? I have two kids, now I have a puppy. My nightlife, my social life is not the best.
Mhm.
So when my wife and I get a random night out, it's like, what do we do? And unless like we're told what to do, it's like, where do you even start to look? Like,
Where do you
you're
start to look? Yeah.
yeah, you're always gonna go to that. You're gonna gravitate to like what you know first, right? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
aware of this because I passed it on the way home from work, or whatever it might
Mhm.
be.
Yeah.
But it's so fragmented with all these avenues in which you're advertised with. But like back in the day, it was awesome. It was like what, radio, TV, billboards, and
Yeah. I was just thinking about that. I was thinking about that because there was a time. Do you know who Rich Voss is?
name
Comedian.
sounds familiar.
He's been around a long time. I was talking to him. Like there was a time where you would do radio in the morning. You would go if you're doing as a comedian. Part of the gig was you go do early morning radio on Saturday and Friday, maybe both days, and that would actually help fill the like people would hear you and be like, oh, I'm gonna go watch the comedian. But radio, like in my mind right now, I couldn't imagine one person coming to see a show based on anything they heard on the radio. Like if I'm on the radio, because I've done it, I've done radio spots, and I don't know if anybody's come because of it. Actually, I lie. One time, this is a funny story. I was doing shows in Florida, and I didn't actually do the radio show, but the place that booked me wanted me to send clips of my act down so they could promote the show. So I did, and I do the show, and I get a message from somebody after the show, and they said, "Hey, I liked you. However, you stole material." And I'm like, "Oh man, that's a pretty heavy claim to make." I'm like, I'm digging my heels and I'm getting ready to be defensive. I'm like, well, what did I steal? Like, I heard a joke that you did about religion on the radio 3 days ago, the same exact joke. And I was like, could that have been the promo for the show that you came to? It was my joke that they accused me of stealing. So that's the only person I know that's ever successfully come to a show of mine based on radio promotion.
That you
But
know
there's
of.
a time where that's what you did, because the avenues, like you said, the avenues were so. Well, you saw a sign, you heard it on the radio, or you saw a commercial. Those are the only things.
Or newspaper.
Newspaper,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like four.
because there's no like, even like even like getting an email list right now is archaic. You know,
Okay.
like, but it's coming back. But there was a time where you would just get an email list and you would send
Right.
emails. But now that was before social media. So it's wild. It's wild how the landscape has changed and not made anything any easier.
It really, and back then, I think if you were a business or whatever you're trying to accomplish, like you could afford to do all outlets. You could afford
Yeah.
radio, print,
Hmm.
billboard, all that. Now it's like people's budgets are well, it's so fragmented, right? You can't do everything. It's like almost impossible. And
Yeah.
then it's so fragmented. It's like, well, why would I do all of them? Like,
Yeah. And then so that's why I think a lot of people are just like, I'll do nothing. It's too overwhelming. I'll stay home. I'll watch Netflix. And why wouldn't you? Why would you
right.
go out when you could watch the best stuff on Netflix right now? You don't have to. I do appreciate people that love live entertainment, though.
Well, I told this to Paul too. I'm a huge fan of music. I love music. I've been going to shows since I can remember, and I love doing that. But I would go see a comedian 9 times out of 10 over a live band.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Why?
Well, I mean, especially if the comedian's good. I mean, like
Yeah.
you can laugh for potentially an hour straight, right? Like if the guys or a girl is a good storyteller, or you're like really invested, you're listening. There's a plot and all that kind of stuff, and then it ends with a joke. And it's like if people can build those really well and they're well crafted, it's like a mini little uh like a little episode almost, you know?
Yeah, it's a little show. It's a performance. Yeah.
And there's several within the set, right? And I love to laugh. I mean, there's nothing better. I mean, and I listen, a live show is great, but like if you're in a live show, you're watching the concert, right? And it's cool if like it'll never sound as great as the record that you listen to, right? Because it's live, right? But if it's cool if they did something different and they kind of put a different twist on it. It's like so the experience itself is cool, but like it's like I don't know. I'd rather go see a comedy show.
I appreciate. I wish everybody thought that way. I wish everybody
But
thought
yeah, I
that.
mean, it's funny. I mean, who doesn't like to laugh? Like
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. The nobody that you want to be around. That's for sure.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, like I said, I saw you back in March. I thought you were hilarious. I'm glad we were able to set this up and talk tonight. But I mean, who is Tyler Rothrock? I mean,
Ooh.
um,
Oh man,
who is the
that's a
man?
question. Who is the man? Uh, whew, I don't know. I
Where are you
guess
from?
that's the. I'm from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, originally.
Oh, that makes sense.
Bethlehem area.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like almost exactly an hour south of the Mohegan Sun Casino.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I was born and raised there. Um, I'm in my mid 30s. I started stand up around 21, 22, and I kind of never looked back. Uh, it's funny that you asked, like, one of my biggest things, I don't know, it, I don't know if everybody goes through this or if just comedians go through it. I don't know. That's a question that I struggle with. I've had a hard time with, like,
Okay.
both on like comedically and just in my life. Like, I don't know if it's like midlife crisis stuff, whatever it is, but like, I I don't know. I don't know who I am or what I want, So, and then maybe that's just an influx thing.
Maybe it's a generational thing
Could be. Yeah, could be. Yeah.
because I feel like I mean, you said you're in your 30s. I'm early 40s, 41. But I feel like my parents, like, I don't know, they went to high school. Like, some people went to college, some didn't. But like they would like start their careers like when they were
Mhm.
16 years old. They would just never leave that job. Like
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
kind of
And
who they were. Like they didn't leave their town. They worked in a job from the time they were 16 until they were retired. Like it was almost easily definable.
right. And I kind of love that. Like, I guess I'm jealous of that a little bit,
Hmm.
because where I'm from is still mostly that. Like, a lot of people work for their parent, they take over their dad's, he, electric
Business.
company or
Yeah.
whatever. So I'm definitely an outlier in my pursuit of like whatever I'm doing. And it's been funny to see over time my hometown friends. I don't know how to put this. I don't mean to be. I, I don't. I don't mean to be a dick about this, but it's been fun to see. It's not fun, but it's interesting to see how their thought of me has changed over time.
Okay.
Like in the beginning, it was very cool what I was doing. Then it became like, Tyler, when are you gonna,
Get a
when are
real
you gonna get,
job.
when are you gonna get a real job, man? Like, come on, is this what you're gonna do for your whole life? And then some of them, not all of them, but some of them are like, I actually respect that you stuck in it. You're sticking in it because there's things that I wish I did,
Mhm.
and and I think that's cyclical. And I think when you're from a small town, like I lived in New York for a while, and I had friends that were born and raised in New York City. They don't know what that's like. Like
Right.
everybody there is like, I'm a dreamer.
Mhm.
I'm gonna follow my dreams. It doesn't really happen in small, dead Pennsylvania steel towns. Like the steel mill is still up,
Yeah.
hasn't worked in decades, but we still live in the shadow of it.
The
And it's funny,
landmark.
yeah, like yeah, and like I remember that when I was living in New York, a lot of my friends work for their families, right, back home, and I got fired from my job. And small town people that have been working for their family, that concept doesn't make sense to them. How you could have gotten fired just because you sucked at a job. Because they can basically, when you work for your family, you could the only way you get fired is if you really, really do something bad at
Right.
work. Like, yeah, I got fired. Like, what'd you do? And I'm like, I just wasn't as good as they wanted me to be at the job. Like, but then you like fought your boss or something. No, no, I just we
Uh,
have different. It's different. Like what I have to do to get fired and what you have to do to get fired are way different things.
right.
So I've always found it interesting about the disparity between small town and big city, and I think that contributes to a lot of why I have a hard time figuring out who I am because I like both.
Sure. And I would imagine that people who are saying like, "Oh, when you're gonna get a real job" and shit like that, there's a little jealousy there. Um,
Well,
if
it's like,
there's
and they're seeking validation.
right,
They want to make sure that them doing that their choice was right. You
right,
know, so
yeah,
that's which I
it's
get. I get that.
of course, yeah. I mean, we're all it's a human nature, and
Yeah.
it's nobody's right or wrong. It's just kind of how we get by day to day. It
Yeah,
seems.
yeah. And that's this thing. It's like there's got to be some of me and there's got to be some of them.
Yeah,
So if we're all just trying to get real jobs, then there would be no comedy shows to go to.
right,
Everybody would just be like fighting over the same job.
right.
So
Would you say that because oftentimes you hear people who are in entertainment in general, whether it's a band or a comedian or things like that, like their childhood, maybe it was unstable in that maybe they had parents who were divorced or they were just kind of left to their own devices, like they just they call it a latchkey kid or um what I guess and what I'm getting at is like people who become comedians and entertainers. I feel like their life isn't like just roses all day.
right.
It's like they had to overcome something, or there's a reason why they're funny, or they have this different perspective on things.
Are you asking if that's what I
Yeah,
had? Like,
what's your
um,
story? Is there one, or have you come from?
yeah, I don't. I mean, I had a very good childhood. My dad passed away when I was 21.
Oh,
So,
damn, mine
but
too.
aside from that, I mean, they were my parents were together. But you never know. You never know like what things about your life impacted you in certain ways and what things made you funny. I, my family is funny, and like my family, both sides of my family, my dad's side and my mom's side, it's ruthlessly like fun. Like my uncle, my mom's brother's very funny. You know, make fun of you in ways that you didn't know you could be made fun of.
Yeah.
And my on my dad's side, you know, all the family would hang around a kitchen table and tell stories. My dad's sister, my aunt, is you know, she would hold court and tell stories. So I think like I, I saw, and me and my cousins would do plays and stuff. We were like when we were little, but I don't know if I, I, I don't know if growing up I was like, you know, predestined to be a comic.
Right. There's nothing
I'm
definitive that
actually
was
sure I wasn't.
right.
Like anybody that knows me from my pre-comedy life is very shocked that this is what I've been wanting, that this is what I'm trying to do. They can't
Right.
nobody ever can understand it.
Now, are you doing it full time?
I'm trying to. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'll do side jobs and stuff to, you know, to help, but yeah, I'm trying to be as busy as possible and go wherever and take, you know, sometimes you go a long way for not a lot of money, but it's the stuff you kind of got to do.
It's the opportunity. It's you never know.
Yeah, you just got to get better. You just got to keep getting better.
Get the reps, and yeah, and I'm a big advocate of it only takes one.
Yeah.
Like I tend to bet on some UFC fights, and I bet the underdog because I figure it only takes one punch to knock somebody
Yeah,
out, right?
true.
It only takes one person to see your set that
Oh yeah,
has
that's the thing. Like, am I limited like success or the successes, even though they're not huge, the ones I've had, it's been happenstance, just putting yourself in the position. Um, and I think entertainment in general, and probably even more broadly, everything is uh every and it's an old it's like not a you know original thought, but everybody's an overnight sensation that's taken decades to make. You know what I mean?
right.
Like
Yeah.
everybody that kind of hits, you're like, wow, they came out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, but they've been on the grind for 15 years.
Right.
You didn't know them, you didn't see them, so feels like they came out of nowhere. But yeah, you're right. All it takes is one, and if you're good enough, you know, me and Paul. It's funny. Me and Paul talk about it a lot. Because we've been at this for a while, and there's not been a huge break that came our way. But it's almost like maybe you don't want it too early. You know, maybe you want to make sure you're ready for whatever opportunity you get, because I think it's easier to ruin one than to not get another. You know what I mean? Like if you
Right.
ruin, but I don't
Well, that makes
know.
sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I like what you said that too. Like, everyone is essentially an overnight sensation, but the backlog of time put
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
That's how I felt about like Matt Rife to a degree. I felt like he came out
Yeah.
of nowhere, but he's been doing it for however long.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as even longer than I remember. I mean, to answer your question, like I think my dad's passing, and I kind of had a little bit of a down year. I had like some close friends I lost. Like I had a really dark year, and I went to see a therapist who I had seen as a kid, and it's funny. I saw this therapist when I was in high school as a family. He was like a psychologist or I don't know, like one of the psych things. He couldn't prescribe me medicine, whatever one that is. And I developed trust in him, and then he retired. And then I kind of just like swore off therapy because I'm like, well, I'm not better. You just retired, you know, and you felt
You
Like
quit.
he quit. Like I wasn't, and then we forget that about like medical professionals that they are there for our well-being, but if they have enough money to just buy a house in Florida and live off that, they will leave you.
Right.
Stop being your care. Like they'll stop helping you.
Or yeah, new opportunity, new job, new
Yeah, they don't.
whatever.
They're not going to be like, well, I can't, go sailing with my wife because Tyler needs to talk about his issues more. That's not going to stop it. So anyway, years later, I had this rough year, and my mom and family, my close friends felt like I should go to therapy again. And I was like, no, I went one time. That guy retired right on me. I'm not. So what she did was she talked him into seeing me again. She brought him out of retirement, my mom, which is a bad idea. Don't do that. And he actually told me to do stand up. He's like, he was like, he's like, you need to build some self confidence. And I was like, I always wanted to try stand up. And he's like, well, try it. And I did, but by the way, that's like terrible therapy advice. Like your therapist shouldn't suggest stand up. I think that they should be their medical license should be revoked. But um, that was literally the last that ever since then I've done it, and I've never looked back one time. And there's been many times I should have, and but yeah. So yeah, I think that one year kind of pushed me over the edge, but I don't know what made me. I've always thought differently, I guess. I don't know
Well, I
about
would imagine you probably see things differently. Like, so some people
yeah,
could see a situation that like just face value and be like, okay, it is what it is. But like people
yeah.
like you, and I think creators in general, like creators and things like that, like just they have this like way about them that like really enables them to look deeper. Maybe I don't know.
Deeper or less deep.
Okay,
Sometimes my favorite things, like my favorite jokes and ideas that I come up with are things that like are so dumb. Like like just an idea where you're like, oh, why is this thing that we're all totally okay with and that we've accepted as normal life? It shouldn't be. We shouldn't allow this, And once you like take a step back and think, oh, health insurance. Why do we allow this all to happen?
yeah,
We don't ask. We've just accepted this as reality. So then you're like, and then you can make fun of it a little bit.
right,
That's my favorite ones because I'm never gonna find the clever take. I'm not smart enough.
okay.
Uh,
Well, I mean, I'm gonna bring up this joke. I'm not gonna ruin a bit because it is on your Instagram, so it's not like I'm like, because I know with comedy, what sucks about comedy, it's like when you hear the punchline, it's like, okay, well that joke is spent, and
mhm.
hearing it a second time isn't as funny. This one is though. I mean, I've laughed every time I've watched the clip, and I got, like I said, I got to see it live too. But the whole uh, the tot finder that killed me. That's
Really,
such a
that's a
good
new
one.
one. That's a new one. Well, actually, that's not. So that's one. It's so funny. Like that's a perfect example of like this thing that we're trying to do. Like it's so bizarre and confusing, and it doesn't make any sense because that's been in my notebook for probably 12 years.
Really?
And just the simple the idea that um that that was on a bedroom window and that the fire department would have to decide whether to rescue the person or not. And then I found kind of a better way to do it
Yeah.
and it just fell into place. So it's like a new bit that's been in the notebook for 12 years. So I appreciate that. But yeah, that's it's so bizarre how that joke came to be.
Well, it just so I mean, you think about uh the whole situation, and it was meant well, right? It's meant well.
Yeah, yeah,
The whole concept, it's just yeah, like save the children first.
yeah,
If
yeah,
anyone's if any, it just save the children, right?
yeah.
But the whole it's just an easy way for pedophiles to point out where
It's
the
like, what
kids
are we doing here? Like we're just Like of all times to not show the pedophiles where not when they're sleeping, please.
And to wrap it up too, it's like the fireman does come. You're staying at your parents' house in your old bedroom, and they come in and whoa, that's a big tot. Oh, so anyone listening to this right now, go to Tyler's Instagram page and
I
check out that
appreciate
clip. That's oh man, what a good. And it's funny because it's shit that it's everyday stuff that we like. Again, like someone like me will, just okay. It's a good thing they're trying to do. They're trying to save the children first.
Uh-huh.
Or someone like you is like, there's something there. I'll write this down and we'll get
Yeah.
back to it.
Well, I think that's kind of the thing that I think there's something anywhere and
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And everybody, I think, I'm sure you have something. Everybody has one like great joke in their brain, at least. I think everybody I've ever talked to has done. There's a lot of times people are like, "Hey, here's some material for you," and you're like, "All right," but but then I'll talk to people and like my friends, and they're not trying to like give me jokes. They're just saying something that bothered them in their life,
Hmm.
and like that is a hilarious take on life. And I think we all have the ability to like do it. I think comedian, like just people like me, just do it a couple times and we just train our brains to just keep mining it. But dude, I don't know if I don't think I'm special. Like, I don't think there's anything about me that's unique or different than anybody else. I just think I look for those things more than you probably do because you don't need to. You know what I mean? But I think like it's so funny and so fun to hear. Like my girlfriend's kid he'll have these ideas and I'm like, I'm jealous of what I wish I could have come up with that.
Hmm.
That's a great angle. That would be a great stand-up joke.
Just take it from him.
I know. I just take it and
He's a
give him
kid.
$5.
Yeah, it's just he's a kid. Just take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got one for you. I've
Hit
got
me.
some material for you.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's always funny, and maybe it's probably not a joke, but like, um, I think it's funny that fundraisers for I don't know, little Timmy's baseball team or whatever it might be, or school something, they have gun raffles.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, there's constantly these like, unfortunately, there's school shootings and like kids with guns who
Yeah.
shouldn't have them. It's like now we are, you know, doing gun raffles to help little Timmy's baseball team. It's like what,
Yeah, exactly. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's a perfect example.
you know?
I think I have like because I'm working on some stuff about how I love small towns because the church in my hometown would do a gun raffle, and I was like, "Wha- that's only a small town thing where
Mhm.
the church in feet from where they praise God will also announce the winner of a, you know, 22 rifle. Like,
Yeah,
how does anybody not see the irony here?
I don't know. And I think I posted on Facebook at one point. I definitely did because then everyone comes out of the woodworks and they're like, "Well, they do baskets of cheer with booze and stuff." I'm like, "Well, I mean, yeah, that's also not
It's also
really
weird.
great, but like, kids aren't bringing a bottle of booze to school and
Yeah.
killing someone with it. It's like it's just
And if they would, if kids started, first of all, booze, there there would be if elementary school kids were bringing handles of vodka to school regularly, there would be a crackdown,
yeah,
a way bigger crackdown. The liquor control board wouldn't mirror the NRA,
yeah,
and be like, well, we doing what we can do.
yeah. But yeah, that tot finder joke was just, and it's again, it's just this thing that you were able to see and kind of like, okay, there's something here.
Yeah, yep.
But
I appreciate that.
yeah, um, growing up, did you like comedy? Did you have a favorite comedian that you kind of like maybe saw and said, hey, I kind of like this idea of a career?
Yeah. I didn't know. So I didn't know. I played sports. My dad, in fact, was a basketball coach. I played basketball in high school, and that was my thing. I wanted to. So me and my friend would watch Brian Regan sometimes. I like Brian Regan, but in terms of it being a career, I had no idea that it was a career. I didn't like
Okay.
that didn't compute, or at least it didn't cross my mind. And then in college, I started watching Dave Chappelle a lot. I started getting the Chappelle, and then Chappelle had this Inside the Actor Studio. Do you know what that is?
I don't think so.
Inside the Actor Studio was this show. I forget the guy's name, but he would interview famous actors about basically what we're doing now, except I would be a famous person and you would be this guy that is a professor at Pace. And then so in this interview, and I related a lot to Dave Chappelle, not more so not about his comedy, but his story. His dad, because it was right around the time my dad passed away, his dad passed away. And he was talking about it. And he said that he had a conversation with his dad because Dave Chappelle wanted to be a comedian, right? And he said, it's very it's hard to make it as a comedian. And Chappelle said, well, if I can make a teacher's salary doing comedy, and then I've made it. And when I heard that, it kind of like clicked for me where, oh, you could do this as a job. That you don't have to be famous. You don't have to be like a household name. You could make a living in doing this. And that's technically making it. And ever since then, I kind of started to like think about doing it, think about, oh, maybe I do want to try this. And
That's
a
interesting.
therapist talked to me.
That's interesting concept because like
Yeah.
I would imagine that when you see these comedians and maybe it's an athlete or whatever it might be like oh man I have to like get to their level and their fame in order to like make it. But no,
Yeah.
you just have to do enough to have your bills paid
Your
and have
bills
fun doing
paid.
it.
I do have the, I do have the competitive thing. Like
Sure.
I do probably to a fault, compare and I like want other people like or chasing people down, I guess would be the best way I would describe it, which in sports is a good thing because there's hours in the gym, there's practice, there's whatever. But I think sometimes in comedy or things that are creative or art, you know, competition is the killer of creativity
Hmm.
in a way. So sometimes you end up doing things that aren't authentic in order to, I think in my early years, and I still like, and up to not that long ago, I I struggled with really finding out who I am on stage. And I don't know if I think it set me back a little bit. It definitely set my confidence back. And I'm trying to really right now, like, figure out what I want to do because you, you want to do well. So you kind of pick up these bad habits about how to do well, how to make a crowd laugh but you're not necessarily totally being yourself every time. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. Uh, I've forgotten what your original question was.
I think I did too. It's okay.
Yeah, something about. Uh, oh yeah, about my childhood that got me into it. Who I look up to.
Oh yeah, yeah. Favorite act, favorite comedians,
As a
whatever.
kid, I would just look up to Regan and then Chappelle. It's funny. So you know who Brian Regan is, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
I remember being in ninth grade, and me and my best friend at the time watched Regan a lot, or actually listened. We didn't watch; it was all audio stuff.
Yeah.
And then we had this guy. He did an assembly at our high school about how people would come in and talk about, hey, don't do drugs, and if you work hard, blah blah blah. But then they would have an overall message, but then entertain. So this guy was doing Brian Regan's act, like, and doing the whole delivery and everything. And we neither of us knew that that was a faux pas at the time.
Right.
So we went up to him. We were all excited. We were like, "Oh my god, do you know who Brian Regan is?" And the guy got you could tell that he didn't think anybody would know who Brian Regan was because he just stole his act.
Right.
And he got so pissed at us, and he like pushed us away. He's like, "Get out of here!" And because he didn't want, he probably thought we were making fun of him.
Right. Or that you guys knew. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just Regan. I mean, Dane Cook. Everybody kind of listened to Dane Cook. That
Oh yeah.
CD came out. And Dane's amazingly funny. But yeah. So just other than that, but comedy wasn't on my radar. Like I didn't even when I started it, I didn't know it was a job. Like
Right.
my first maybe 10 times, I thought you had to say a different thing each time. I didn't know you worked on material. I didn't know any of that stuff.
Yeah. Talk about the craft. Because there's a lot that goes into it, and I think people might think that you just go on stage and they're just funny people, but there's so much that goes into being a comedian. It's timing, it's the cadence, it's no one to kind of like say something and maybe like laugh, so you kind of like engage and pull the audience in a little bit. Like talk about that, because I think that's really something that's special about people who are comedians that, like, again, not everyone has.
Yeah. Craft is my favorite part of this whole thing. Like figuring out how to do it. I love to hear other people's methods and stuff. My own method, I'm all over the place with. Some, I don't know if I've yet found the system that works for me. And part of that gives me anxiety too, because I waste a lot of time just staring at a computer, not typing anything. But for example, the stuff that you saw me do, I've done so many times that like it's almost not fun for me to do it, because it's just so ironed out that you could like wake me up in the middle of the night and I could just start the act. So, people come up like, oh, and the job is to make people laugh, but there's not a real thrill factor at that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so that's just how many times, like I'm the type of comic where I need to work bits out many, many times before I feel comfortable with them. Like I'm like 50 at least, 50 to 100 times before I'm like, where I'll maybe even try. Like in a show like you saw me, like there's a couple things I tried, but that's just because I'm comfortable with the venue. But typically, if like I need to really dial it in for a lot. But then there's other people that can kind of just go. And like the first time lighting in a bottle, I wish I could be more informative of the process, because
you don't have to be. I just thought like if there was something specific,
I'd love to. No, because I think about this all the time. Like I wish and I think if I had it more figured out, I'd have more success. But like the Top Finder thing is a perfect example. Like that's something that sat around for a decade, kind of collecting dust, until one day I looked back and thought, could it work here? And then you try it, and then you're like, well, it's not great there. What if and then so 12 years ago when I wrote that, I hadn't the pandemic hadn't happened. I hadn't moved back home. So then it was like, you know what I mean? So then you're like, oh, well, maybe that could help this here. And you're always tinkering with that type of stuff. Like, where is this could it be better here? Could it be? you know who does a Paul does a way better job than me. I'm kind of all over the place. Like I work on I love to try new bits. So sometimes I don't work on the stuff as much as I should, but um I kind of try to like pick Paul's brain a lot because he's very methodical about, working on his stuff. And I listen, if you're really into this, there's a podcast, you know who Mike Birbiglia is? Not that
No,
not that I want to shout out another podcast on this podcast. You should
no.
listen to this one first, and then Mike Birbiglia has a podcast called Working It Out, and where he interviews famous comics, your favorite comics, and it's all about craft. It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun.
That's a good title too.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's great.
You're talking about podcasts on a podcast. Do you also have a podcast?
Yeah, I have a podcast.
Yeah.
I have a podcast with my two friends, Lou Miziano and Sean Preston, called Night Moves. We've been doing it for a couple years. And I'm toying with the idea of starting something on my own too.
And
So,
what's Night Moves about?
I mean, it's just it's the dumbest hour on the internet, I think.
Do
It's
you
we're
think
just
that
it's dumb.
do you think that helps with your stand up?
A little bit. I think it's a good place to go kind of work on stuff, like throw
Yeah.
ideas out there, but you always got to be conscious of like, and going back to the original question you asked is who are you? You got to be conscious of like what you're putting out, that what people will see you as. So if you're doing a podcast where you're a dumb guy every week, and then you want to work on this kind of heady bit about politics, people might be like, no, I don't, that's not who I want. That's not what I want from you.
Yeah. But they also know that that's not who you are. So it kind of comes off as,
Disingenuous. Yeah.
exactly.
Yep. And that's
Yeah.
honestly, that is something that I have a hard time with, because I think sometimes it's easy to be a big dumb idiot, and it's 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 also easy for others to make you a big dumb idiot.
Hmm.
That's an easier, and like I used to have a podcast, a more local podcast that turned into a TV show on PBS, and it was me and the other co-host, and I was kind of like the dumb guy,
Okay.
and I kind of always hated it, but that was my role. But I didn't like who I was being portrayed to be. Not that I'm extremely smart, but I want to be able to like be something other than dumb fart joke guy. Or I can't understand math. I can't understand banking.
Right.
You know,
Well, man, think about how many sitcoms there are out there that people, famous roles like Ross from Friends or
yeah,
Kramer. He will always
Kramer,
be
yeah.
that fidgety, like
Yeah, Patton Oswalt always says he has a story about when he did Ratatouille, the movie,
mhm.
and it kind of like had a negative impact on his stand-up because he became famous and rich, but then people would come out to see him and want Ratatouille.
Right.
They'd be Ratatouille fans, and he's talking about like kind of some dark, twisted stuff. And Bob Saget too. Bob
Mhm.
Saget was on
Yeah. Full
Full
House.
House, and then people go see him, and they'd be like, "He's dirty, he's raunchy."
Yeah.
And you know, luckily I have no level of fame, so that's not. But you kind of like, it's more of an internal struggle about what you're putting out. Who you're being, who you're letting people see.
Yeah. It's interesting. Oh, and especially like nowadays too, because I mean, well, maybe easier to be a chameleon these days because people's attention spans are so short. Like you could be a goof today and smart tomorrow, as opposed to like, you had millions of eyes on you when you're on Friends or,
Yeah.
so maybe it's easier. I don't know, to a degree.
And it's more like it's also like I think people like I've seen it happen many times, like coming up, because there's people I know that I started with that are like doing really well, and some of them are themselves, and some of them found the version of themselves that they feel that started to click, that started to gain them some exposure, and they just super leaned into it.
Hmm.
And it's like that's not who you are. That's not. I know you. I know that's not the person you are, and that's fine if that's the life they want to live. I have no judgment, but that's not something that I want to be. Like the person, like who Larry the Cable Guy. Larry
Oh
the
yeah,
Cable.
yeah.
That's not who he is. I don't know this guy
That's
personally, but
yeah.
I go to a celebrity golf tournament every year, and he's one of the golfers, and I feel so sorry for him because you just can never be you. And I know there's millions and millions of dollars that he
Right.
gets. I'm sure that makes it easier, but when you are out in public, you got to be this version of you. You can't ever just like you if you're Larry the Cable Guy, you can't just go to a restaurant and like be going through a breakup.
Right.
You got to be like rednecking it around, and
Yeah.
so
That's
that kind of
interesting.
sucks.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess you should always just be true to yourself.
It's the hardest thing to do, but
Well,
that's what I'm
I
trying to do.
I feel like yeah, the internet itself too. Like I know so many people who I see on the internet acting like just complete jerk offs. Like to the point where I see them, I'm like, I hate you as this person. But then like I
Yeah.
see them and talk to them in real life, I'm like, you are a completely different person. Like what are we doing here? Like I like to think, and I'm 99.9% confident that like the guy you're talking to right now is the same guy you'd talk to, you know, wherever. But there's people on the internet who like they just I don't know, they're just they brag a lot and they like, like they act like they have these enemies and like these haters and like or that they may have come from I don't know, like I came from the bottom and now I'm here type mentality. But it's like
Yeah.
the person, it's like, bro, like I know your family. I know where you went to college.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I
it's
know.
just like, and it, yeah, I understand what you're saying. The internet gives people this like green light to reinvent themselves in a way, but it also is the thing that connects themselves to people that actually know who they are. It's weird. It's a weird place, to exist. And I think there are people that exist online more than in person. And that's the type of person maybe that you're talking about where like your online shit is so exaggerated and so colorful, but you're not in person, you're not who this like it's bizarre that you would even want that where your
Right.
online thing is different.
I don't get it.
And also people just the internet itself, like just even like arguing and like I
It's a
don't know.
bad
I think the
place.
internet's done a lot of good stuff, but it's
Yeah.
like one of the worst places to be.
Worst places.
Yeah.
I don't know. And here we are on the internet.
Oh my God, like I'm disgusted by the amount of time I spend on my phone.
I know.
It disgusts me.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
But it makes life so easy too. Like there's an app for everything.
Yeah, it does. But look, I think this is the best time to be alive right
Mhm.
now.
I agree.
But I think at some point that's going to stop. And I don't know how far away from that we are.
You know, I think about that a lot too. And I'll relate it to like the craft beer industry. Like, back in the day, you had like Coors Light, Budweiser, like like 4 or 5 staples, right? And then the craft beer industry kind of hit, and like there's like these different flavors and different styles and blah blah blah, and everyone got into it. I jumped in feet first. Like I love it, right? Still to this day I love it, but it got to the point where I'm just like, just give me a goddamn Miller Lite.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to, I just
Yeah.
give me a Coors Light. I just want to have a beer that tastes like a beer and not like
Yeah.
with this,
Yeah.
strawberry, whatever puree and it.
Yeah. Right. Like just some like guava, like,
Yeah. But I feel like in life in general, like we're just so inundated with everything, and people just want to like, I almost want to just take the computer, shut it, and be like, done with it.
yeah. Yeah.
Be done with
That's,
it.
my girlfriend, uh, her big gripe is my phone. Like I know it, and like I'm just so like, and it's like I'm not even sure what I'm addicted to on it. I don't feel any joy. Like there's no like if you're addicted to cocaine, there's at least a high.
Right.
I get no high. I don't know where the endorphins are coming from. I don't know what dopamine hit I'm getting, but I'm on this shit so much. Like I it just disgusts me. And uh I'm not learning anything. Like it's just a bad place to be.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe for someone like you though, like you need to be in the know of like current events,
What
current
I say.
topics.
That's what I say. But I don't know. I don't know anything.
But
I'm
yeah,
not,
but
I don't know anything. Like that's the thing. That is what I tell her. I'll
yeah,
say,
but
well, I
maybe
have
you,
to do this.
yeah, but
I gotta.
maybe you take something from today that you heard or saw, and like 5 years from now, it's something like
True.
you
Yeah.
know.
I like you. I like what you're saying. I hope she hears this.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, I'm not trying to validate our obsession and our addictions, but like, and I probably make the same,
Mhm.
excuses for myself at times. Like, I work full time in sales, and so it's like I feel like I need to know like current trends and new businesses that open up and just new opportunities and blah 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 yada yada. But I also probably spend more time like, what's Jim doing today? Like what's his
Yeah.
life about?
Or
Like
like what's like a book? Like I'm trying to read. I can read. Like I know how to read. Okay, but I can't read. I don't know if
same.
that makes sense to you.
I'm
Like
the same
I'll
boat.
open the book. I know the words and in the order that they go. I know it's. But like a paragraph, I'll read a paragraph, and within that paragraph, I'll be looking at the letters and the words, but I'll be thinking about something else in my brain.
Dude.
And then I'll get anxiety and I'll go to my phone and I'll be like, all right, let me just check Twitter. And you you can't read that way. You can't absorb.
Comprehend. Yeah.
And like my fear is we're so scared of like I'm terrified of artificial intelligence, right? I'm terrified
Same.
of robots.
Same.
But it's like, well, I think what we were scared of, it's already happening.
Hmm.
Like the robot that's gonna take us down, it's right here.
Right.
Like it tells us what to do. My
Yeah.
phone will just tell me what to do. It'll be like, no, Tyler, you want Domino's tonight. You haven't had Domino's in 6 days. Here's a coupon from Domino's. Get Domino's tonight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, all right.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So I just
Oh,
live my life by this algorithm and this phone. I'm like, who's really in control? Like I pay the bill, but
yeah, but
who owns who?
the phone is just a medium. It's just a source of I'm trying to think of the word, but like it's just a source of it's just a vehicle for, the dominoes themselves to tell you, hey, Tyler, and hey, Target says, hey, spend $100 and you get $5 off or whatever
Yeah.
it might be,
Well, did you watch that documentary? What's it called? The Social Dilemma?
Yes, scary.
You know, I watched that during COVID. And I got a flip phone for like two
Good for
months.
you.
I got a flip phone. But if I'm being honest, I also would bring this, and whenever there was Wi-Fi, I would just go on it.
Right.
So like, I'm not like I didn't
Well,
really do it. I didn't like I didn't break it.
yeah. Well, they talk about a cashless society too,
Yeah,
and that's scary.
it's all scary. The AI stuff. I was with somebody, and I know I don't want to hold you up too much, but I was with a director of a documentary, and he was going to some film festival, and we were talking about AI, and like we were talking about the writer strike, the actor strike, stuff like that, and how important that was, but also like the fear. He's like he basically said the streaming services are working on right now a way. Okay, so the like it's all about like likeness, like they can recreate your likeness. Like Matthew McConaughey can sign off his likeness to Netflix and they could use him for whatever movie. Like he doesn't even have to be there to film.
Right.
They could just use, right? But they're also going to come up with a way to be like, all right, Tyler, you like action movies, you like Miami, you like this music, and you love Charlize Theron, right? We're gonna we're gonna have AI make a movie, an action movie, where you are starring in it opposite Charlize Theron. Do you want that? And it's like, well, yeah, I
Yeah, kind
do,
of.
but I kind of like it's like so anybody sitting at home could just be in the movie. And then once that happens, what are we even doing? Like it's over.
That's
What are
yeah,
we doing?
that's not even fun. Like maybe for like initially, but like
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's what I hope. I hope people think it's not fun because creating stuff is done. If we just let the robots create our movies and we're done.
Yeah, and then how do we survive? How do we like how do you live? How do you make money?
How does anybody then? It's scary. We're in a scary time.
Yeah, it's yeah, we could talk about that for another hour. That's fuck. I don't know.
But here's one thing that's going to remain. That Top Finder sticker is going to be on that window. It's going nowhere. If it was going to go anywhere,
Faded
it
to
would have been,
shit. Yeah.
it would have went there by now.
Yeah, faded to all hell. Oh man. So what's next? I mean, it's we're recording this. It's April. This will probably be released sometime in May. What does the year ahead look like for you?
I'm going to do I'm going to be on the road a decent amount. Try to get as much done on the road as I can. Uh, I'll probably pick up some projects that I like to have an idea about. Maybe doing some golf. I play golf. Do some golf content. I have an idea for an animated thing that I hope comes out around election time. Uh, I'm actually that's what I'm writing now. So those are the two projects. Maybe this other podcast, hopefully, and then Night Moves, and just I'm at the point. I'm at where I'm at is like it's throw shit at the wall, and see what sticks, and just try to make stuff you like, and just keep your head down and work. It's hard for me to say what the next year looks like, because my rule is if the if the previous year was better than the current year, I have to start looking at a different line of work. And so far that hasn't happened yet. So hopefully that trend continues. Hopefully we get some momentum somewhere, and you know, like we talked about probably a half hour ago, somebody sees it, somebody sees me somewhere, somebody sees something I'm doing somewhere that can that likes it and wants to work together. So that's just what you got to do. You just got to keep working, keep positive as hard as that is, and hopefully the next time we do this podcast, I have some good news or some cool project or whatever.
So there'll be a next time.
There will be a next time. This was fun.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I loved it. I love this
That's
stuff.
awesome. Yeah. Are you gonna come back to Wilkes-Barre anytime soon this year at all?
Yeah, I'm not. I come back a decent amount to Wilkes-Barre.
Cool.
I do Paul's Don't Tell shows every once in a while. Nick Bruce, the Wisecrackers people are pretty good to me up there. So I'm sure I'll be back.
Cool.
And yeah, I can't wait. Wilkes-Barre's great.
Is there like a website people can or your Instagram or whatever?
I'm working on a website. I should
Okay.
have. I've been working on that for
12
You know
years.
what? This is what I'll also say. What and I don't. This isn't a downer, but the only advice I could ever give is do like I don't know if this is how you are, but I have so many projects that I start that I like get distracted from or get maybe like I get discouraged into. It's not coming to me as easy, and I just bail on them, and then it's years later and that thing is still lingering in your head and you haven't worked on it and you could have had it done by now.
Yeah.
Website's one of those things. I should have had a website. This political show, this like animation, I had this idea 5 years ago and I just didn't do it. And I kick myself every day that I didn't work. And hindsight's 2020. You can always work on shit right now, but I think it's important. I wish that I finish things more.
Yeah.
So that's when you say what's your next year look like, I'm gonna finish more stuff. That's gonna be what I'm gonna do.
You and I are very similar. I forget what you said before. But like I'm the same way. Like I wanted to write books and not even like intellectual books or things like that, but like I have like 2 or 3 ideas for that. I have like 2 or 3 business ideas and then obviously, your physical fitness. I keep saying
Yeah.
I wanna, get part of the puppy was like, in my mind, I'm like, you know what, that is gonna force me to like walk more and get more active just because I have to, right? So that's but what did you say before? I forgot what it was. That I was like, oh, when you like read something. I read something, I'll read like 2 or 3 pages, but I'm reading the words, I know how to read too, just like you. And I'll read 3 pages, but the whole time I'm thinking about anything else. And I'll get three, and I'm like, what did I just read? And
What did I
don't,
read?
I don't get anxious and go to Twitter, but I'm like, I'll have to go back.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what did I just? I don't even know what I just read.
Yeah. It makes me feel so dumb. I'm like, did I just have to read this page 3
Yes.
times to comprehend it?
We're very similar.
Yeah.
I'm just not funny.
No, you got it in you.
I'm gonna write that gun joke.
Do it. Get on an open mic. You'll love it. You'll love it.
I should go to more of those, but again, my time is limited.
Yeah.
It's tough, but yeah. Well, dude, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Anytime. I'd love to come back.
Yeah, it's I met Paul through doing this, and it was he's hilarious. And that was a great episode too. So it's cool to kind of like kind of form these relationships as
Yeah.
you meet these new people. So I appreciate your time. I know you said you're a sports guy, so real quick, who do you have winning the NBA Finals?
Oh, Sixers.
Come on, they're not going to beat the Knicks.
Nah, they probably won't get out of this. I guess the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets will win.
I forgot about the Nuggets, and I'm a Celtics fan, so this has been a fun year for me. And I'm like, there's no team that can beat the Celtics in a series, but I forgot about the Nuggets.
Yeah, Jokic he's pretty good.
Yeah,
So
but we'll see.
It's fun. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah, we'll see. And have you listened to the new Taylor Swift album yet?
I haven't listened. I'm not a Swiftie.
I'm not either, but
I understand. I respect her talent though. I'm not like somebody that's a hater. I get it. She's very talented and successful, and you can't knock her. But it's not really she has a couple good ones that I like, but
yeah,
they're not songs that I'll play. But if they're like, if my girlfriend or her daughter puts it on, I'm like, you can leave it on.
sure. Yeah, I haven't got through it yet. I try to like stay up current events and current music, but yeah, I haven't. There's a lot of buzz around some diss tracks and all that kind of shit. So
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
I mean, it's cool. It's cool to watch, like, but like my conspiracy theorist, like when the whole Jay or Travis Kelce, that whole thing, that whole relationship, my conspiracy theorist brain was like, come on,
Yeah.
come on. Oh wait, he's gonna get to the Super Bowl. He's gonna win. Okay, and she's gonna come out with an album. Okay, all right. It seems all very, very coincidental.
Very convenient.
Convenient, yes.
Well, it's funny. I mean, are they still together to this day? I don't even know because
I didn't. Yeah, hell hasn't froze over, so I think
Yeah.
people would go nuts if they broke up.
Yeah, no one knows.
No one knows.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Well, hopefully I'll see you again when you're back in Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah, I love that. Love
Awesome,
that.
man. Well, thank you very much again, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care, buddy.
Bye.
All right, see ya.